So 3 a.m., a man lies awake, staring at the ceiling. He's prayed. He's begged. He's done everything religion told him to do. But the fear of tomorrow still owns him. And he's not alone. Because millions of people feel the same. Every night, every morning. The truth is, the real God most people worship isn't in heaven. It's the problem in front of them. Worry has become their God. Stress has become their altar. And fear, their daily prayer. But what if I told you, you were never meant to bow to those things? What if I told you, you were created to rule over them? Today, we're pulling back the veil. Because you were made a creator, and religion made you forget. Here's the part nobody tells you. You weren't created to crawl through life in fear. You weren't designed to wake up every morning just trying to survive. You were designed to rule over reality, to speak life into existence, to be the author, not the victim. But from the moment you could think for yourself, you were trained to hand that power away. Religion told you, you're nothing without God. You're a sinner, a servant, always in debt to some invisible judge in the sky. And with every sermon, every rule, every fear-based message, something inside you shrank. Instead of walking like a creator, you learned to bow like a beggar. Instead of commanding reality, you learned to plead with it. That was the lie. Not that God is real, but that God lives somewhere outside of you. And as long as you believe that, your power stays buried. Not because you're weak, not because you're unworthy, but because you've been programmed to forget the truth. The divine was never out there. It has always lived in here, inside you. So let's get real. It's Monday morning. You open your inbox and see the email. The job you thought was secure? Gone. The paycheck you were counting on? Vanished. Instantly, your stomach drops. Your chest tightens. Your mind races. How will I pay the bills? What will people think? What if I can't recover? And in that moment, you've already bowed. Not in a church pew, not at an altar, but in your mind, in your emotions, in your energy. You've crowned fear as your God. You've given worry your throne. You've handed stress the keys to your kingdom. Because here's the raw truth. Whatever dominates your energy in the moment rules you. That's worship. That's submission. Not incense, not hymns, not ritual, just attention, just emotion, just frequency. But here's the shift. The job was never your source. The paycheck was never your provider. God didn't create you to beg reality for scraps. You are the temple of the divine, which means the source flows through you, not your employer, not your bank account, not the economy. And when you remember that, you stop begging for things to change. You start commanding them, not from arrogance, but from alignment. Not because you're worthy, but because you're connected. Let's strip it all the way back. Forget the paintings. Forget the stained glass windows. Forget the man in the sky with a white beard. That's not God. That was an image, crafted by human hands, designed to make you small. Because here's the truth most people will never face. God is not a man. God is not a person. God is not sitting somewhere in the clouds flipping coins to decide your fate. God is energy, impersonal, infinite, unstoppable. The highest frequency of consciousness in existence, the source of all things. And once you grasp that, everything changes. Think about the sun. Every day it shines on everyone, saint and sinner, rich and poor, believer and atheist. The sun doesn't say, "You prayed today, so here's light," or "You messed up, so no warmth for you." Nope. It radiates. Without judgment, without bias, without exception. That's how divine energy works. It doesn't play favorites, it doesn't reward or punish, it simply responds to how you align with it. Stand in the sunlight, and you grow. Hide in the shadows, and you wither. Stay too long without awareness, and you burn. The sun doesn't care, it just is, and that's God. Now think about sound. In a studio, if you strike a tuning fork at a certain frequency, anything in the room that matches that frequency will begin to vibrate. Not because it's good, not because it's worthy, but because it's in resonance. That's how divine energy responds. The moment your life matches the vibration of peace, you experience peace. The moment your thoughts sink into fear, you magnetize fear. It's not personal. It's not punishment. It's physics of the soul. And the Bible actually says this outright, though religion rarely explains it. Acts 10:34. God is no respecter of persons. Do you see it now? God doesn't operate by personality, not by religion, not by class, not by race, not by wealth. The divine responds to alignment, to vibration, to frequency. But here's the danger. However you define God is exactly how you'll experience God. If you've been taught God is a strict, distant judge, you'll live under guilt and survival mode prayers. If you've been taught God is only out there, you'll always live begging, never embodying. But if you begin to see God as abundant, boundless, ever-flowing energy, suddenly life feels different. Provision shows up. Guidance shows up. Peace begins to follow you. Not because God likes you more, but because you finally stopped resisting what was always flowing. Picture two people standing in the same storm. One is panicking, crying out, begging God to save them. The other is calm, grounded, steady. Same storm, same wind, same rain, but different definitions of God. One sees God as punishment, as wrath, as distance, and so the storm owns them. The other sees God as energy that flows through them, and so they rise above the storm. That's not luck, that's not favoritism, that's resonance. Here's the raw truth. God doesn't pick and choose. God doesn't punish. God mirrors. Your vibration determines what you experience. Your conviction determines what shows up. Fear creates darkness. Peace creates light. Resentment creates destruction. Gratitude creates abundance. So here's the wake-up call. Stop begging for God to change your life and start aligning with the frequency that already shapes it. Because the divine doesn't respond to begging. It responds to resonance, to conviction, to frequency. And once you embody that, your entire reality begins to shift. There's a verse in the Bible most churches will never touch. You won't hear it in Sunday sermons. You won't find it on inspirational posters. Because if people really understood it, the entire religious system would start to crumble. Ready? Here it is. Isaiah 45:7. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Listen to that again slowly. I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. Now wait a second. This doesn't fit the story you were raised on, does it? You were told, God equals only good, devil equals only bad. Heaven and hell locked in an eternal boxing match. But Isaiah explodes that idea. Here's God saying outright, I am the source of it all, the good, the bad, the peace, the chaos, the light, the darkness. That one verse destroys the neat categories religion built for control. Think about fire. One spark can warm your home. One spark can burn it to the ground. Is the fire good? Is the fire evil? Nope, it just is. It's power. And how you use it determines what it becomes. That's God. Or take water. It nourishes crops, it quenches thirst, it sustains life. But that same water can flood cities, wipe out villages, drown ships. Is water good? Is water evil? Neither. It's force, it's energy, and that's the divine. So why did religion hide this truth? Because it's dangerous. If you realize God isn't a man with moods, but the totality of energy itself, you stop playing the game of fear. You stop thinking the devil is hiding under your bed. You stop believing every setback is punishment. You stop begging a distant deity to fix it. And you start realizing everything you're experiencing, peace or chaos, light or dark, is not random. It's reflection. It's resonance. It's energy responding to you. That makes you powerful. But power makes you uncontrollable. And religion has no use for people it can't control. See the shift? God doesn't judge in the way religion taught you. God mirrors. Your anger vibrates. Life reflects it back as conflict. Your gratitude vibrates. Life reflects it back as abundance. Your fear vibrates. Life reflects it back as lack. Not reward, not punishment, reflection. That's why Isaiah 45:7 is the most dangerous verse in the Bible. Because once you realize God is total, infinite, beyond duality, you stop fearing shadows. You stop blaming devils. You stop bowing to problems. And you start doing the one thing religion never wanted. You take your power back. This isn't about morality. It's about manifestation. It's not about earning blessings or avoiding curses. It's about learning how to work with divine energy. Because the moment you align with peace, peace flows. The moment you align with abundance, abundance comes. The moment you align with chaos, chaos multiplies. God is not punishing you. God is not rewarding you. God is mirroring you. And that's the wake-up call. Let's step back into the story of Exodus. Moses standing before Pharaoh. The Israelites enslaved, bound in chains, living in fear of a ruler who controlled every breath of their lives. Religion taught us this was just history, a story about an ancient king and a chosen people. But here's the deeper layer nobody talks about. Pharaoh isn't just a man in Egypt. Pharaoh is a metaphor. Pharaoh is every oppressive force that keeps you enslaved. Pharaoh is the weight of fear pressing down on your chest at 3 a.m. Pharaoh is the voice that whispers, "You'll never be enough." Pharaoh is that system, that debt, that stress, that addiction that tells you, "You belong to me." Every single one of us has a Pharaoh, and every single Pharaoh has the same goal, to make you forget you're free. Listen to what God says to Moses in Exodus 7:1. "See, I have made you a god to Pharaoh, and Aaron your brother shall be your prophet." Did you catch that? Not a messenger. Not a servant. Not a weak beggar carrying out orders. God said, "I have made you a god to Pharaoh." In other words, I've made you greater than the very system that oppresses you. I've given you authority over what enslaves you. I've placed you above the power that once placed chains on your people. This isn't a metaphor about Moses alone. This is a revelation about you. Your Pharaoh may not wear a crown. Your Pharaoh might look like the boss who thinks he owns your future, the medical diagnosis that tries to define your life, the generational curse whispering through your family line, the constant anxiety that hijacks your peace, the scarcity mindset that chains your finances. Pharaoh is any force that says, "Bow to me." And Moses? Moses is your higher self, the awakened part of you that carries the fire of God inside. And here's the danger. The moment you forget you are Moses, Pharaoh wins. The moment you forget you've been made a god to your problem rules you. Picture this like a movie scene. Moses stands trembling in the palace. Pharaoh is towering over him, the most powerful man in the known world. Soldiers on every side, gold and power dripping from the throne, and God whispers, "You are a god to him." That flips the entire script. The man who thought he ruled was about to be overruled. The throne that thought it had power was about to bow to a shepherd with a staff. That's the energy shift waiting for you. Not that life suddenly gets easy, not that Pharaoh disappears overnight, but that you finally realize Pharaoh was never bigger than the God within you. Look around your own life. Where is your Egypt? Where are you enslaved to systems, cycles, and fears that don't serve you? Because here's the truth. Pharaoh doesn't keep you enslaved with chains on your wrists. Pharaoh keeps you enslaved with chains on your beliefs. The Israelites had the strength to walk out of Egypt the entire time, but they didn't believe they could. They were waiting for someone to set them free, and that's the tragedy of most people today. You're waiting for something outside of you to break your chains, when the key has been inside you all along. The lesson of Pharaoh isn't just about escape, it's about identity. Moses didn't defeat Pharaoh by himself. He embodied the divine energy flowing through him. And the same is true for you. The moment you embody that truth, Pharaoh loses power. Fear no longer dictates your choices. Stress no longer hijacks your energy. Scarcity no longer chains your vision. You were made a god to your Pharaoh, not equal to the Creator, but carrying the authority of the Creator inside you. And once you know that, the chains stop rattling, because they've already been broken. So ask yourself right now, what's your Pharaoh? What's been ruling you in secret? And are you ready to flip the script and rule over it? Because until you answer that question, Pharaoh will always win. But the moment you remember your authority, Pharaoh bows. Moses stood in front of the burning bush, trembling. He had been chosen to confront Pharaoh, the greatest power in the land. But he was terrified. And so he asked the question, "When I go to the people and they ask who sent me, what should I say?" God's answer was unlike anything ever spoken before. He didn't give Moses a name. He didn't give a title. He gave a code. I am that I am. Tell them I am has sent you. Exodus 3:14. This was more than an introduction. This was the highest revelation of God's nature. I am is not a label. It's not just a phrase. It's the vibration of creation itself. The I represents the self, the conscious being. The AM represents the eternal now, the present moment where creation happens. Together, they form the most powerful declaration in the universe. Every time you say, I am, you're activating divine energy. You're speaking as the Creator, not just to the Creator. But here's the tragedy. For most of your life, you've been misusing the code without even knowing it. I am tired. I am broke. I am stressed. I am not enough. Every time those words leave your lips, you're not just describing your state. You're programming it. You're stamping it onto reality. You're turning the name of God into a weapon against yourself. That's why so many lie trapped. Not because they're cursed, not because God abandoned them, but because they unknowingly invoke I am in ways that create prisons instead of freedom. But imagine the flip. Imagine the power of attaching the code to truth instead of fear. I am peace. I am abundance. I am rising. I am enough. Do you feel it? Those aren't affirmations. They're activations. They carry authority. They summon reality into alignment with your words. Because the moment you declare it, creation responds. Picture this. A single mom looks in the mirror before heading to work. She's drowning in bills, running on empty, stretched thin. Every morning she's whispered, "I am exhausted. I am broke. I am failing." And life keeps reflecting it back. But one day, she shifts. Same bills, same stress, same reality. But she looks in the mirror and says, "I am provided for. I am strong. I am the vessel of God's abundance." At first, nothing changes outside, but inside, something flips. Her frequency rises, her choices shift, her energy realigns, and little by little, her life begins to reflect what she declared. That's the power of I am. Here's what you need to understand. The universe doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to what you declare. Your desires might live in your mind, but your I am lives in your frequency. And your frequency is what the world mirrors back. So if you're walking around saying, "I am lost, I am weak, I am stuck," don't be surprised when reality agrees with you. But the moment you shift into, "I am powerful, I am whole, I am rising," reality bends to match it. That's why the name I am was so sacred in Scripture, because it wasn't just God's identity, it was yours. Every I am statement you speak is either a prayer or a curse. Either you're invoking heaven or you're reinforcing hell. The choice has always been yours. So let me ask you right now, what are you attaching your I am to? Because whatever it is, you're becoming it. And the moment you anchor your I am in peace, in vision, in divine conviction, Pharaoh can no longer hold you. Chains can no longer bind you, and problems can no longer rule you. Because you've remembered the ultimate code. You've remembered that I am creates. So let's bring it all home. You've been told you're weak. You've been trained to believe you're powerless. You've been conditioned to bow to fear, to stress, to struggle. And all the while, the real blasphemy wasn't arrogance. It wasn't pride. It was forgetting. Forgetting that you are the temple of the divine. Forgetting that God's Spirit lives within you. Forgetting that every I am you speak reshapes reality. Whatever rules you, runs you. Whatever frequency you bow to becomes your God. And whatever you attach your I am to creates your life. Fear will keep you enslaved, but conviction will set you free. Because the Creator never left you empty-handed. He placed the code within you. He gave you the power to command storms, to part seas, to rise above Pharaoh. Not as a beggar of blessings, not as a prisoner of problems, but as a co-creator of reality. Picture Moses standing before the Red Sea. Behind him, Pharaoh's army is pressing in. In front of him, the waters are impossible to cross. Fear is screaming. Doubt is pounding. But he raises his staff, and the waters obey. That wasn't just history. That was a blueprint. Because the same divine energy that moved through him moves through you. So here's the question only you can answer. What are you declaring today with your I am? I am broken, or I am whole. I am weak, or I am strong. I am stuck, or I am rising. Because whatever it is, reality will bend to it. This is the moment to reclaim your throne, to silence Pharaoh, to stop worshiping problems, and to walk in the godhood you were born with. So speak it with me now, wherever you are. I am rising. Say it until it vibrates through your bones. Say it until the chains of fear rattle and fall. Say it until Pharaoh bows. Because you are not the storm. You are the calm that commands it. You are not the victim. You are the creator. And the moment you remember that truth, religion can no longer chain you. Fear can no longer silence you, and no Pharaoh can hold you. God made you a creator, religion made you forget. But today, you remember.